Okay, welcome to Pigtown Pines. This is Matt here. Today I'm going to be making hard cider. Excuse me with getting used to this whole camera setup still, making sure everything looks good. I like it on the tripod better, but I figure I'm going to be moving from station to station possibly, so I don't know. We're going to try it this way to start. So, I make a hard apple cider. As you can see by I cheat. You can you can press your own juice from apples. You can buy apple cider, or you can use apple juice. Biggest thing on apple juice is you want to make sure it's preserved with, it's only preserved with, right down here, ascorbic acid. It's vitamin C. You can use this type of apple juice and it will ferment. I'm not going to go through all the sanitation. If you're going to do if you're going to make your own, you're going to have to do a little research about making sure everything's clean. I will go over and show you some of my stuff here once I get this burning. Okay, I got one in. What I do is I heat up about half, sometimes a little bit more than half of the juice. I'm adding brown sugar. I'm also adding yeast nutrients, and I'm adding 1 can of apple juice concentrate. If you're wondering about the concentrate, the concentrate basically adds more flavor to the cider. I've never added 2 before. I've thought about it, but I'm happy with the flavor of mine. And I'm just going to do the 3 here today. I'm just going to do the 3 here. I have, I'm adding a total of 4.5 gallons of cider into the batch. Here's my other ones over there. Here's my sink area and all that. I'm hoping everything's coming in on the camera pretty well. So, this is still thawing. I'm not in any rush to do that. What I'm doing is I'm heating this up so I can dissolve the brown sugar. My recipe, which I will write down in the comments what my recipe is in case if you want to follow, I use 1.5 pounds of brown sugar. This just helps with the alcohol content. My first batches were a little bit more. I don't brew all the time, but one thing I've come to the understanding of is that the stronger your alcohol, the less chance of things going bad. When I first started making wines, I wanted to be careful on not having things go bad. I love this stuff so much, I had to lower the amount of brown sugar. I think my first batch, I think I was maybe 11% alcohol. That's a lot of alcohol, especially if you want to enjoy it. The other thing I use here is I just use regular old bread yeast. You know, did some research on it, and the best comment I heard do you like the flavor of your bread? And they said, if you like the flavor of your bread, why not use bread yeast? I do enough other baking that I have bread yeast here, and it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper when you're buying it like this way. I normally buy it in a 2-pound tub, and then when it gets open, I just freeze most of it. And the other thing too is if I haven't baked in a while, I get down to the last little bit. If the last batch just didn't seem to work as good, I just throw it away. It's so cheap when you're buying it by bulk. It's not a worry about throwing it away. This container was sanitized ahead of time. This is the fermentation tank, and this was sanitized when I used it last. I just opened it up, and then I've got stuff sanitizing over here, which is Star San. These are all sprayed. I don't know if I need this today. I normally use this. I just sanitized a few things to be safe. Okay, so I've never had a problem with anything going bad, so I don't think I'm going to, ever had that problem. I do sanitize, but I don't worry. I don't overly go. Like, I didn't sanitize this in there. I'm heating it up. I'm not heating it that hot. When you put your yeast in, you really don't want to be over 110. Technically, I might, since I'll be diluting this down, I could heat this up to 120 or 40, but I will get it just hot enough to dissolve my brown sugar. And it's going to take a little bit, but not too long. Yeast nutrients, exactly what it says. It helps the yeast. I don't even know if it's something that's necessary. I keep a sheet on everything I'm making, and it shows that I'm using bread yeast. Matter of fact, I'm trying to remember I didn't write down the amount I use. Oh yeah, two tablespoons, and then the nutrients is one rounded tablespoon. So I'm going to get the yeast nutrients in. I used to use a clarifying agent. Like I said, I'm showing you how to do for apple juice. Come to realize I didn't need a clarifying agent because this is already clear. But if you were to press your own juice, apple cider is probably already cleaned out enough. You probably wouldn't have to do anything with that. But if you press your own juice, pectine enzymes. I haven't been using it just because it's really not needed. That would basically help your solids work out. So then I go back and look, those have dissolved pretty good. I got a really nice little burner here. It doesn't take very long. It's one of those butane burners. It's actually pretty quick, though I might be getting a little low on this tank. So I'm going to just get this dumped in. Like I said, this is just a really easy way to make, extremely easy way to make hard cider. I'm not saying it's the only way or the best way. It's an easy way, and I am extremely happy with the product. The cider, or the yeast, does not get added till later. Matter of fact, when you're using pectine enzymes, I think you're supposed to wait an hour to put it in. That was one reason I stopped using it for this. I really don't need it because it's clear product. Plus, I didn't have to wait any longer. I didn't notice any difference when I stopped using the pectine enzymes. As I said, I'm not a professional at this. It's just sort of a little bit of a hobby. I love the flavor of it. I no longer have to go out and buy. God, I think, what are they? I think the brands I liked, I'm trying to think what those were, $8. Maybe it was, or probably more now, but I think they were like $8 a six pack. It's not a lot of money, but I make, this turns out to be just short of 5 gallons. It's 4.5 gallons of juice, and then I add, this and the brown sugar. So you lose a little too when you're straining everything out. So it probably works out to only about 4.5 gallons, but it doesn't cost me much. These things are a couple bucks, $2 something. At one point, I had it worked out that I spend about $21 on it to make a batch. I'm not even sure it's that much because you buy this brand, and I've actually liked this brand. I don't think I paid more than $2.19 last time I bought them. So you got 6 of those into it. So you've got go at $12, $13, and a couple bucks here, and your yeast and all that. So I'm under $20. I'm under $20. I'm like probably like $18 now into this, at the most. Probably, yeah, maybe even less than that. And the truth is, it's not really about the money, but when you figure out how much it saves you, I mean, that everything counts. Okay, I'm going back to this because I'm just still learning this whole GoPro thing, and looks like I'm still recording. Might have to do some editing, or just leave all my nonsense in. I'm up to 97. I don't mind getting it warmer than I need. The time I add in the other jars, they'll cool down. This is my little basement kitchen, so temperature down here is just maybe 68, 69. So that's what the juices would be. Fermentation. To get fermentation going, it's nice to have a little bit warmer stock. The funny thing is that once fermentation's older, it stays in this fermentation tub right here about a week, 10 days. Sometimes I'm lazy. Technically, I could probably transfer it in 5 days. And what I do is basically, as it's fermenting, the dead yeast drop, and you really want to get your cider off the yeast. I should be probably doing it a couple racking. I probably should go from here and then into another bucket and then into this for a long term. It would get the materials off the yeast more. I haven't to this date. I think I've gone 2 months sitting into here, but not usually that long. Try to get at least a month in there. I'd love to get ahead of the game and make something, let it sit for even longer, 6 months. But one of these days, instead of going from here to there, I'll probably go from here to another one of these and then to there. And by doing that, you'll get even more yeast out before it gets into here. This gets a lot of the yeast out. Just going from here to this one, I get a lot of the yeast out. I'm hoping I'll film all that. Remember to film all that too. I'm gonna check my burner. Looks like my tank is getting just a touch low. So once I get to okay, I'm 105. So that's good enough. Okay, so I'm not gonna take it out the burner yet, but we will in a little bit. Now I'm adding the frozen. Okay, that's done. What I want to just do is, because it's at 105, that's melted pretty quickly. So the next process would be to get this and this other cool stuff into this thing. You can pick these things up. You can make your own. I actually had to replace replacement ones of these. You could actually make your own. I bought my first ones, and I think I got the second ones at an auction or something, or from a garage sale. And these things, you just got to follow your sanitation. As I showed you earlier, the star sands. This was already sanitized. Generally, when I'm cleaning it up, when I'm done with the process, I sanitize it and put the lid on it, and that way it's ready to go next time. That way I don't have to mess around with it. And what I've learned is I don't like to pour the hot right into the bucket. I'm sure it will handle it, but I always add my cold in. Like I said, this is a very easy way to do cider. I'm sure there'll be some of you saying this really isn't hard cider. Well, I won't argue with you. It's apple juice. It's made from apples. I'm just fermenting it. I call it my hard cider. I've had commercial hard ciders that weren't as good as this. One thing I do with my cider is I have a keg. It's why I make the size of a batch. It fits into my kegs. Here's a regular pop keg. Okay, that's done. I think the hardest part about making cider is probably cleanup duty. Okay. Now, I know I didn't get too hot, so I can probably add my cider right away. I just stirred up really good. Okay. Yep. It's my sanitizer. Okay. So, the next step into this whole process is to check your... Oh, see there, I made a mistake. I didn't look up the word. What this does is it checks your sugar. Your sugar gives you your potential alcohol volume. Doesn't mean you're going to hit your alcohol volume. It just means it's your potential. And you can see it gives a little bit of chart. So what you do is you test this while I will use this gauge all throughout making this. And I'll be honest with you, I don't worry about exacts. But right now, I can see it going around. It's right about at 8%. 8% is, according to this chart, is 8% would be a little over 1060, so it's probably, I guess at 1060 is about there. So let's just look at this thing here. You can see the numbers on it. So yeah, there's a 60, so I'm probably 60. I'm going to say 62. So in this my chart, I write this down. 62. It's always 1.0. Now, I shouldn't say always. I guess it could be 1.1, but that'd be a lot of alcohol. And then right here, I just punch in 8%. Last month, I wrote down 61. It was 8%, so I might have been a little under 8. But this is for my record keeping, just so I can know what's going on. This is, I think I mentioned earlier, ascorbic acid. You can ferment ascorbic acid, and that's what most apple juices use to preserve their apple juice. If it's got potassium sorbate in it, you can't ferment it. I always check my alcohol number too before I put my yeast in. I'm not sure if it makes a difference, but the way I look at it is, following the specific order each time just makes it easy. It's like I said, the only thing that's making it harder for me is trying to film it too, which is just part of the process of learning. Okay, I go to this chart, and it's 2 tablespoons. And then couple different ways to do this. You can put it just on the top, or you can put it into a glass bowl. I've done both ways, but when I will and I didn't sanitize this. I'm not too worried about it. I've just never had a problem. if you're a stickler on all that. Follow probably the first times you do it, you should follow all the rules. Now the yeast, you notice I didn't worry if it was exact or whatever. I'm not worried about this yeast. If you weren't sure about your yeast, let it sit for a while. You'll see it start foaming up. How to do? Okay. I don't know why I do this, just out of habit. Usually I did a pretty good job at not, if you let it sit, it'll be foamier and you have to rinse your container. Like I said, I could have just poured that right on top. It's probably just out of habit. Like I said, if I wasn't sure about my yeast, I would have let it sit for 5 minutes and make sure it started working. But I know it is going to start working. And I will probably try to add back into this video once it starts working. So this is it. This is how simple it is. As I said, that's it. This is ready to go. Well, shouldn't say that. There's one last thing right here. And I sprayed this earlier, but I have a habit of spraying this stuff again. This cleaner doesn't hurt. It gets into the small amount gets into the, it's not going to hurt anything. I don't like to get a lot in there, but I just go around and double check to make sure this is sealed good. And that happens when you, I should have double checked that before I put that up there. Looks like it's sealed now. Yeah. Put pressure on it so it fired up. Now, I'll come back in a little bit and you'll see this start to, it'll probably be, I might start hearing it work in an hour. It'll probably be more like a couple hours. This one has a temperature gauge, but I don't know if it works anymore. I haven't used it in a while. Probably got to find out why it's not working good. It might just not be hot enough. Yeah. Or maybe it's time to replace it. Could. Okay. You can see this is like an hour and a half later. It's bubbling away. It'll get even a little harder than that. I probably have a little more liquid in there than I needed. See, it's bubbling over the top, but hey, this is what it'll look like within a couple hours. Like I said, it'll be a little harder after a while, but that's what it is. So if you like this video, click like. If you want to see part 2, subscribe. This is part 1 of, oh, I don't know if it'll be 2 or 3, probably 3 different videos when I rack it next, and then when I final racking and kegging. But that's it. Till later.